Welcome back to the worm again. I still have a lot of trees to clear for this cabin. This stand has taken me longer than I thought it would just because it's a lot of brush to get rid of, a lot of limbs to chip. And I don't think you guys want to watch like 3 videos of me just cutting trees here. So I thought we'd mix it up a little bit this week. You know, I do make these videos. I started making them, well, I make them because they're really fun for me to make. And, you know, over time I realized that some of you guys like to watch them. But I also do it as a kind of journal. I've done a lot of long, extended outdoor trips, adventures over the years, and I've always kept a journal in writing. And since I'm not doing it this time, these videos have kind of become a journal. One of the things I'd really like to put in this journal are some of the ridiculous things that Tito and I have done over the years. You know, we've been friends since high school, so that's, let's not do the math, quite a while. And we've spent a lot of time being really stupid in the outdoors together. There are a few stories that have stuck in my head over the years, more than a few, a lot of stories that have stuck in my head that I want to kind of get down just for posterity, just for a journal, just to remember it. It'd be really fun to look back on these stories, you know, if I ever make it to 80 years old or something. So I'm heading out. Tito's been working on a cabin. It's a ways from here, but he's been remodeling and painting this old cabin on a lake. I'm heading out there just for a couple days to help him paint, and I thought I'd try to get him to sit down and relive one or two of the stories, see if he remembers things the way I do, and if it's fun, I might do more of these in the future. I probably will, but there is just such a plethora of stupid stuff that even at the time was really funny. So I'm gonna keep clearing trees now. We'll cut to hopefully getting Tito and I sitting down and reminiscing. And next week's video we'll be right back at it. Hopefully be done with this stand of trees.
Sausage.
What's that?
Sausage.
What'd you say?
Sausage.
Oh.
Not bad.
Really? You like grilled meat?
Oh.
That's pretty strange. Just looking at you, you wouldn't guess. So I had this idea for a while that this needed to be documented because we've been doing extremely stupid stuff together for so long, and there's some of the stories that we laugh about from like 20 years ago, and I think they need to be committed to video. And I don't think people wanted to watch me chainsawing again this week, cutting down trees for my cabin, so I thought I'd do like a quick funny outdoor story for the week's video. And you hit on it yesterday, and I had to shut my mouth, so I didn't say anything about it. But do you remember what you said yesterday about my dad? What he used to think of?
Oh, yeah. What he thought about all the stupid stuff we've done over the years.
What do you think your dad thought about all the stupid stuff we used to do? I've got like 4 or 5 stories that are always in my head that just crack me up every time. And my favorite one, I think, is what I always called your Snoopy sleeping bag. Was it actually a Snoopy sleeping bag?
No, it was just like a gray standard sleeping bag you get from a big box store.
Like it was good down to maybe 85 degrees or something. Yeah. It actually might have cooled you. It was so crappy.
It was marketed as a sleeping bag.
But for a while, I think when I was gone, I moved away from Michigan for a lot of years and like went to school and then lived other places. And every time I came back, I'd always call Taryn. I'd be at my dad's house that had it backed up like to a farmer's field or something, right? And this is like, it didn't matter if we were 18 or 32. They'd come back to Michigan. Hey, Taryn, what are you doing? I don't know, let's do something tonight. So we get a case of beer, and you'd show up with your sleeping bag, your Snoopy sleeping bag. And at some point, we'd end up camping in the cornfield back behind my dad's house. And it didn't make any difference what the weather was. And what we used to do in the winter, I think in the summer, well, regardless, we would just take 2 sleeping bags and a tarp, right?
Yeah.
And if it was the winter, you needed a bigger tarp so that you'd both sleep on half of it. So that if it snowed, it started snowing in the middle of the night. I mean, we never checked the weather or anything.
No.
But if you woke up and it was snowing, you'd take one half of the tarp and pull it over top of both of you, and that would be the tent for the night. That was the weather protection.
Yeah, we didn't have cell phones to see if storms were
Nothing.
coming
It
in.
wouldn't have made any. I don't think it would have made any difference.
No.
I always had the sense to sleep on the inside of the tarp. I mean, maybe you did too, but I always
No.
talked you out of it. No.
Yeah.
So I'd sleep on the inside, and if I'd wake up, it was snowing, I'd fold it over, and it didn't matter if it folded all the way as long as it covered my sleeping bag. So it must have been snow. I think it snowed a lot that night. Do you remember the specific night I'm thinking of?
Yeah, and I know that it got down to 15 or minus 15, one or the
And
other.
it dumped a lot of snow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so at some point I woke up and it was snowing, and I pulled the tarp over us, and went right back to sleep. And I remember in the middle of the night waking up and feeling the ground shaking. And I wasn't sure if it was in my dreams or if it was an earthquake or what was going on. And you could hear, when the plastic gets really cold and it rattles. And I could feel everything just like shaking and rattling. And I finally woke up enough to realize it was you shivering. And you're like, dude, we got to go inside. We got to go inside. I was like, Taryn, you're fine. Go back to sleep.
Yeah.
Go back to sleep. And then I'd fall back asleep, and I guess he'd fall back asleep. And it must have happened several times.
Yeah.
Taryn, go back to sleep. No, I'm so cold, man. I'm so cold. I think we got to go. No, you're fine. You're fine. And then at some point, I think it was in the morning.
Like we finally just got up.
No, and it happened one more time. You said, oh no, I'm fine now. I'm starting to warm up. And I was like, oh no, he's dying. Because if you're that cold for that long, you don't warm up just by laying there. And I pushed the tarp back, and there was a lot of snow on it. And as I recall, the tarp had folded over right down the middle. It only reached halfway across you, halfway across your sleeping bag. So we pushed all the snow off, and one half of you was just water and ice. Is that how you remember it?
Yeah.
And that you were so cold. Everything was frozen. I think the zipper was even frozen on your sleeping bag. And you were so cold you couldn't even get it unzipped.
Remember, we had to peel it off the ground.
Yeah, it was frozen down to the tarp or frozen down to the ground. I'd imagine that's as hypothermic as you can get without... I mean, it may have caused brain damage. I don't know.
Huh?
And didn't you go in after that and, take a whole water heater shower or something?
I think so. I remember your dad said, I think I remember him saying that it was 15 degrees. He's like, you guys slept out there all night or something?
Everybody always says that, regardless of the weather. You guys sleep out there? Why would you do that?
That was cold.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't think it was cold, but even back then I had, good winter camping stuff.
I did not.
You always just had everything in your car. You'd show up with a car full of, random stuff and just...
That sleeping bag was duct taped.
I do recall that. Well, that's probably what kept you from dying.
Yeah.
Because duct tape is waterproof,
Yeah, the one corner of it had ripped, and I had duct taped it.
Didn't you have that for a long time, that sleeping bag?
I don't think after that I did.
We camped out back there a lot, though.
I love that. By that tree. The next time I'm down there, I'd have to drive by that. Just look at that area again, the tree.
Do you have any other memories of camping back there? A lot of them were pretty blurry.
I was just going to say, a lot of them were rum soaked.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the only place we could camp. Just go out and...
You couldn't go sleep on the ground anywhere.
Yeah.
You still can't. It's so hard to do. And I remember when I had my dad's Astro van, it must have been you camping with me. Do you remember camping back in that neighborhood?
Yep. Or it was developed or whatever.
Yeah, there's a regular old suburban neighborhood that they were enlarging one end of it, putting in more houses, but it was all bulldozed and some trees, and we just used to drive all the roads trying to find some place that you could just sneak off into the woods and camp. And we camped back there a lot. That was when I had that Astro van, and I remember my dad had a 160 or 170 pound Newfoundland.
That Astro van stunk like that dog.
It did, that's true. But I remember the one time being at my dad's house. My dad wasn't there. It was just Bosun, the Newfie, and I, and getting a phone call. The phone rang. I picked up. This is Officer So and So. Is the owner of the something, of the Astro van here? And I was like, why? Why would he be asking this? And I kind of was like, what's this about? Well, could you? I'm in the driveway of, this house. If you're at this house, can you come out and let the dog in? And I was like, what? And I looked out the door, and the officer was sitting in his car in the driveway, and Bosun was sitting like this, looking right in the window at the guy. He was a monster. He weighed as much as I did at that time.
Yeah, I had that little S10, and when I'd pull in a snowbank would rise up off the ground and shake off, and it would be Bosun, and he'd come in and
he'd look right in your window.
I'd roll down my window,
he'd look
see
in
that
the face.
roll down, and just stick his head right in.
Yeah, he would sleep out there. I remember my dad was snowblowing the driveway and stuff. He would just lay on the side of the driveway, and you could just snowblow right on top of him. He wouldn't move, and you get done. I have no idea where he was. And hey, sorry to break in here, but I was editing this video, and I was reminded of I think it was a Steve Martin quote, something like, when you tell a story, have a point. It makes it so much more interesting for for the listener. I think that was Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, maybe. But anyway, we had some issues with the camera, battery cut out, whatever. We never got to the point of this story, but the cops showed up because I think neighbors had reported this strange van showing up only in the evening and staying overnight, leaving in the morning, and of course had no idea why it was there. So they ran the license plate and came to check on the owner of the van and see what was up. You can only imagine what the neighbors thought I was doing back there all those nights. Gosh, stories with points are really so much better, aren't they?
I also remember camping back in that neighborhood. Like, you'd use your stove for heat in the tent.
No.
I can't remember which tent you had.
I still regret that. I did that for a lot of years. I didn't know about carbon monoxide. We used to do that all night long. We'd go camp in the middle of the winter, and we'd all sleep to the edge of the tent, and we'd put a board or something in the middle and just run my camp stove in there.
Yeah.
With everything zipped up for hours and hours and hours, play cards or... Yeah, I think that's why I don't have very good short-term memory. Truly. You can't do it for that many years, that many hours every night. And
I specifically remember one morning, like, I had to go to work, and just getting up, and it was a beautiful spring day, and like packing up that tent, and like you went to do whatever you were doing, and I went to work, and that's how we lived. It was just, it didn't matter. It didn't have to be a weekend or...
No, it's just whenever we were both around.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever came home from out of state, and it wasn't like the first night we went and camped out somewhere.
It brings back a lot of memories.
Well, I got a couple other things that I think we should reminisce about and put on film, but we'll save them for next time. A couple other really good ones.
Yeah. Man, yeah.
I probably shouldn't say it, but the time we went hiking wherever that was, off of the beach, northwest Michigan.
That whole...
All I'll say is we got back from this long hike. It was a very eventful hike, and we decided we were so muddy and bug bitten that we'd go skinny dipping in Lake Michigan, and we threw all of our clothes in the car, including the keys. All of our clothes,
why do you say
including
we?
Well, we were both there, and you didn't tell me not to. That got really eventful. That was the middle of nowhere. We had to figure out how to get into the car. Anyway, next time. Yeah. All right. See you next week. We'll do some chainsawing. Peace. Look out for the mayfly tree. Oh man, that is a lot of flies, buddy. That's quite a hatch.
Thank you.
All right, let's get out of here.